Hey, good morning, Dawson. This is a demo video for you for your At Star's End Mandalorian series Luke Skywalker saber. So the hero saber, but it was slightly different in the Mandalorian series. This is a kit that you bought raw. It comes in a raw aluminum finish. You sent this off to Red Fox Drummer, who did the powder coating on it. So obviously the grenade section, the neck, and the two pieces here that are holding the clamp card together. They may not show up very well on camera, but those are gold also. Same gold as the neck. So that was very well done. This is installed with a Proffie. There are several moving parts on the saber. All right. First of all, to get to the board, if you ever want to do that, you just take off the pummel cap. I have your static pummel cap as well, right here in your in this bag. I'll make sure it goes in here with you. I do have your tri-ring in here. It's a pretty gnarly thing to try to put on. It's locked in right there. You have to pull it apart, and then you have to vice grip it into these holes right here. That's not typically something that I do. I'm too afraid to scratch the finish, and it's very easy to do that. I've done it before, and I told myself then I wasn't going to do it. So, yeah, I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to scratch your finish there, so I'm going to leave it in your bag. But anyway, just take off this pummel cap, and it has to be screwed in tight. But when you take it off, you have a speaker pod in here. You can pull your speaker pod out if you want. You have a 22 millimeter Smuggler's Outpost Nano Elite speaker. That's the type of speaker this is. It's got its own PCB, so it's detachable. I had two choices for speakers on this guy. I could have gone a 22 like I did and have it fully enclosed for sound, or I could have gone on a 24 millimeter and not had it fully enclosed. So in my opinion, these guys sound better enclosed than a 24 millimeter sounds that's not enclosed, if that makes sense. All right, so that's why I decided to go there. When you take that off and you look in here, you got access to your board. So your micro USB, your SD card, you see your speaker pogo pins there in the middle, and then the Smuggler's Outpost emblem there on the bottom. All right, but if you don't need to get to your board, you don't have to ever really take this off. When you put this on though, make sure you screw it on nice and tight, because that's the only way that the speaker is going to work, and it stays on. All right, your switches are on top of the clamp card. They're not the black box. This black box is just for show, but I do have your red and green LEDs working over here, obviously. One thing I had to do to this clamp card is it came in pretty thick. Like it didn't even fit inside the grooves here in the clamp area where it's supposed to slide into. It was just too thick. I had to shave. I ended up shaving down about 3/4 of the thickness off of this card. One, so that it could fit in here, and two, so that I could have enough room to actually, actuate those switches, because it was so tight. But I did get it on there. Everything is good to go now. If you ever slid this off, you would see, your switches. You've got one switch right here. If you slid it all the way off, you'd see your other switch, and you'd see the two LEDs that I have in there. But ideally, you'd want to keep this on. There's no reason to take it off. I do have your display emitter, or your display. Yeah, it's the display emitter and grenade section. It's one piece. I wanted to show you that it fits on there when you're not using it. Very important that you do not put this on when you have a battery in the saber. These pins just barely touch inside of there. So do not ever put this on when you have a battery inside of this saber. You could damage it. All right. It may be hard to see from here. I mean, you could see it a little bit. This is your effects emitter, and it's slightly longer. Right? It's 1/4 inch longer or so. This is the one that has the blade side PCB in it. So it has that blade side PCB. It has a holder and everything else. When you want to use this one, you just swap them out and put this on. So you got that here that makes contact with this 7-pin PCB right here. If we can focus, just looks like that. This is your chassis. I tried to do a little something on here so it didn't look so plain. We've got that side, other side over here. The two sides are different. Here and here. And of course, a removable battery setup. So this takes an 18650 that I'll provide. Goes in here. Your spring side for your negative side is inside of the battery cradle. All right, so let me find my battery. We can take our battery and just throw it right in here.
I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
This sound font you've got is the LS6 sound font from Kasith. So as you can see, I've got your blinkies going. They're going in the cave scene, so red and green back and forth until you turn it on. And then it stops on green. And I gave you twist off. All right, you do have a Carl Chen PCB in here. Recessed as much as I could possibly recess it, and I'll show you more about that here in a second. But all you got to do is just take this grenade section and screw it right on. It goes right on. When you make sure that it's tight, it makes contact with that blade side PCB. Your front switch is your activation. A nice smooth swing, staying on green over here. Back here is your auxiliary. And I gave you twist off. Now to put a blade in here, what you'll have to do is unscrew this top emitter piece. This is something that is a little strange to me for blade retention. When this piece comes off, you've got 4 blade retention screws. If I were to take this and twist it around, you could see all 4 of those guys. You could probably see it better from the inside, right? They're black retention screws. They're very tiny, so make sure that you don't lose them. But one thing that is strange to me is that you have to put your blade in here, lock these down, and then screw it in, because once you screw this into the emitter, you don't have access to these blade retention screws. And of course, this is what it looks like, you know, with that piece off. So I have a recessed holder down in there holding your Neopixel connector, and that's what it looks like. You have to know where to put your blade, right? Because if you take your blade and you put it in, I have to back some of these out because you can't have them sticking out into the threads when you screw this on, or it won't fit right. Let's turn the light on. So when we back these out to put a blade in, like that, if you slide your blade in and you put it right to the end of this thing and you lock that in, it's too far in, because I've got these Neopixel pins sticking up a little bit. So you have to be very exact on where, you know, you put this blade and you lock it in. I would suggest about right there. And it's going to be something that you're going to have to play with. It's not something that it's going to make sense to you on camera. So we're gonna lock this in and see if we got it right. All right, and you do have to lock in all 4 set screws so that none of them are sticking into the thread area, or this won't thread in. So now we've got our blade locked in. This is of course programmed for a full-length blade, but I'm just using a test blade because it's easier to talk. All right, but we'll take this and we'll screw it in. And if you match it up right, which I didn't, it's not going to light the blade up, right? So now we got to take this off and find the right height. So we'll try that one more time. All right. Normally, if I did something like that, I would just edit it out of the video. But because this is so strange, I wanted you to see, like you may have a little bit of issue at first trying to find the sweet spot. But once you find it, you know, everything's good to go. All right. I brought the blade down a little bit inside of this emitter piece, and we'll screw it back on, and we'll see if we got that one right. That time is right. All right, so once you play with that once or twice, you'll see exactly where it needs to go, and you probably shouldn't have too much trouble with it, but I did find that to be just a bit of a weird setup. But probably worth it, though, because now all the blade retention screws are hidden, so there's a trade-off there. All right, so again, activation. You got good class on class. Master bolts is just tapping the auxiliary. If you want blade lockup, hold the auxiliary down and hit the saber. You'll see that better on a full-length blade, because when you have the blade lockup and you're holding the saber horizontally, your blade lockup will be over towards the tip of the blade. And then as you move it up like this, the lockup animation moves closer to the emitter, right? So if I were to do that again and hold this straight up, you'd see it right here. Right here, right? And then it disappears when I have it here, right? To play your soundtrack is a long press on the power when the saber's off. And it's the same thing to turn it off. A long press on the power when the saber's off to turn it off. All right. So we'll go ahead and we'll take this out. We want to take it out like this. I'll go ahead and I'll remove the blade off camera because it's not really, it would be redundant to show you that. But when we're done, we'll just come over here and take our grenade section off. And you can very easily, with your finger, come over here from this side of the battery and pop it out with your finger, just like that. And that is basically your saber. So let me know if you got any questions. Of course, today is a holiday. It's Martin Luther King Day. I'll package this guy up and get you a shipping label, and we'll get it sent out first thing in the morning. All right. Thanks, man.